algebra students. Today we're going to keep working on the quadratic formula. We did that yesterday. We had a song to sing with it, so I hope that you remember that. Every single problem, you should be writing down the quadratic formula before you get started, just to keep that fresh in your brain. And sorry, again, my voice is even worse today than it was yesterday, but here's our formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So again, remember a couple of things. The fraction bar has to go all the way from the negative b all the way to the end of the square root sign. The square root sign has to go all the way over the c. And when I say negative b, I really mean the opposite of b. So whatever b is, you want the opposite of that. So in this problem, let's start by finding our a, b, and c. The a is the number in front of the x squared. The b is the number in front of the x. And then the c, be careful, that's really a negative 130. Maybe I can squeeze it in there. That's my c. So again, I know we just wrote it, but here it is. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X equals, the opposite of b would be a negative 4 plus or minus 4 squared. And again, I mentioned that some of you want to jump right to a 16 there, and I'm fine with that. That's what I do, but I'm going to show this substitution. Minus 4 times the a is 6, and the c is a negative 130. 2 times 6 for my answer in the denominator. So I have negative 4 plus or minus the square root of, this is going to be 16. Now I would strongly suggest that up here we do plus and negative, because now I have, in those three things that are getting multiplied together, the negative 4, the 6, and the negative 130, there's two negatives, which is going to make this all into a positive. So 4 times 6 is 24 times 130, since we already know that it's going to be positive, that's 3,120. Again, calculators are your friend on this. And 2 times 6 is going to be 12. Again, there's some teachers that will encourage you to just enter all of this very, very carefully into your calculator, and then all you have to do is just go back in and change the values for the A, B, and C. You can do that if you're really careful. But on a video like this, I'm going to say, show this work. Show that substitution. Do the math this way. So inside the radical, that 3,120 plus 16 is going to give me 3,136. And the square root of 3,136 is a nice whole number answer yet. So this is going to be that x equals negative 4 plus or minus 56. So now remember that plus or minus really means I'm doing this problem twice. I'm doing it once with addition and once with subtraction. And make sure you follow the order that you have to do in this. If you just type it into your calculator, you will most likely get the wrong answer. You need to do negative 4 plus 56, which would give me 52, and then divide by 12, which is 4.3 repeating. Usually we're going to say we want to go 2 decimal places. So 4.33 if we're rounding it, or you could write it as 4.3 repeating. Now I want to do this as the subtraction. So negative 4 minus 56 would be negative 60. Negative 60 divided by 12 would be negative 5. So let's start here with getting our A, B, and C. So A is 10, B is 9, C is negative 13. Here we go. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Gets to be a little bit of a trick to be able to write it as fast as you can say it. And I know you're probably sick of hearing me say it, and if you pause the video, just write it yourself, that's fine. but I'm just saying it really does help you if you sing it. X equals, now the opposite of b, again, b happens to be a positive number, so the opposite is going to be a negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 9 squared minus 4 times 10 times a negative 13. 2 times 10. 9 squared is 81. And again, I would keep change because now I've got two negatives. I've got negative 4 times 10 times a negative 13. Two negatives will give me a positive. So 4 times 10 is 40 times 13 should give me 520. Excuse me. When you add the 81, I'm going to get 601, which is not a perfect square. So the square root of, come on calculator, the square root of 601 is going to be 24.515, and it keeps on going. So 2 decimal places would be 24.52. As soon as I have to round, I'm going to switch to the squiggly kind of equal sign to show that I rounded. So I'm going to have negative 9 plus or minus 24.52 all divided by 20. Now we want to use that rounded answer as we finish this up. So negative 9 plus 24.52 would be 15.52 divided by 20 gives me 0.776. If I'm running to 2 decimal places, that would be 0.78. When I use the subtraction, it'll be negative 9 minus 24.52, which is a negative 33.52, divided by 20 will give me negative 1.676, but it would round up to 68. So today we're going to be getting more of these kind of messy answers. Anytime we get something that's not a nice answer in the radical that's a perfect square, we're going to have decimals. That's what usually happens with the quadratic formula. I'm so sorry. The A in this problem is 8. B is 12. C is 11. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So the opposite of B would be a negative 12 plus or minus the square root of 12 squared minus 4 times 8 times 11 all over 2 times 8. 12 squared is 144. This time there's no other negative, so I'm just gonna leave that as a subtraction. 4 times 8 is 32 times 11 gives me 352. When I simplify that stuff in the radical, I would have 144 minus 352. That's going to be a negative 208. Right now, I'm telling you we're going to have an issue because I can't take the square root of a negative number. That's something we talk about in 8th grade a lot, but we really haven't talked about it much this year. But if you try to take the square root of negative 208, your calculator is going to say domain error or just error on some calculators. You can't take the square root of a negative number. So if this happens, if that number inside the radical is negative, there's nothing more to do. That's a no solution. That one just won't work. Okay, one more problem. And again, we're missing one of our letters in the A, B, or C. The A is still there. The A is 10. The B is the one that's missing because I don't have a regular X value, so that B had to be 0. And the C is a negative 18. Now, here we go. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. The opposite of 0, well, that's still just 0. I just realized now we didn't have any problems today that had the B as a negative number, so you have to take the opposite and get positive. Just realize that can happen. 0 squared minus 4 times 10 times a negative 18 all over 2 times 10. So I would do a keep change right there. I'm going to have x equals 0 plus or minus the square root of, so 0 squared is just going to be 0 plus, so I know it's going to be positive. 4 times 10 is 40 times 18 is going to be 720. And 0 plus 720, well, that's just 720, right? So the square root of 720 is going to be about, forgot to change to my squiggly equal sign here, 26.83. So 0 plus 26.83 is just 26.83. 26.83 divided by 20, I'm going to get that my first answer is going to be 1.34 when I round. 0 minus 26.83 is just a negative 26.83 divided by 20 is going to be a negative 1.34. Sometimes we even write this kind of an answer. By the way, that's what I would expect to see. But we do sometimes write this as plus or minus 1.34, just because it's the positive answer and it's the negative answer. So today's worksheet, quadratic formula day 2. There will be some that are possibly a no solution. Many of these are going to be decimals that you're going to be rounding. The answer key is in Schoology. So check your work. There's no formative, but if you need any help, if you can't get these to work out, please, please, please let me know.